Today, we're joined by Republican Senator Tim Scott. He's probably nodding, saying, "Don't interrupt this guy. He's on a roll."
He's
Chairman
good.
of the banking.
Joe, he's really good. I tell you what, I loved what I was hearing there, and frankly, we should. The proof is in the pudding. At the end of the day, we should ask ourselves: are we better off now than we were under President Biden? The answer is emphatically yes. Biden dug an economic hole. Frankly, interest rates got as high as 9%. Inflation followed. There's no doubt about it. When you look at the two presidencies so closely beside each other, the one thing you must say, today, more Americans are receiving more money, $250 a month. Why? Because of the one big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut bill, saved Americans about $5 trillion, which translates into about $250 a month. We also closed our border. Joe Biden said, I need more laws. I need more laws. Frankly, we just need more backbone. President Trump closed our border, and the Fed Reserve report that says that illegal immigration spiked the cost of housing. Really important information. So when you look at the facts on the ground, Americans can breathe a sigh of relief because President Trump stepped up to the plate and made critical decisions at the right time. And on balance, President Trump has been a fabulous president for our economy, even for working Americans who desperately need hope for the future, that their kids will be better off than they were. That's good news.
I don't know if you saw Steve Leisman before that talking about what Chair Warsh is going to say today. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know, Senator?
Well, there's no doubt that you look at the dual mandate of the Fed is really important. Price stability, employment. I also think that we have to drill into the artificial intelligence conversation in South Carolina. There are aspects in parts of South Carolina today that want to ban data centers. The real question we should ask is, how do we make sure that these data centers pay their own way as it relates to electricity and water use? We have to solve those problems so that our consumers, our constituents, breathe a sigh of relief. Because when you zoom out, the most important question is, who wins the future? Is it China or is it America? Artificial intelligence will be that which threads that needle. I want to make sure that we are on the right side of history. And frankly, we have to solve the problems at home so that we can win the issue as a country.
If we had started the interview differently, I think we would have started with your late colleague from South Carolina, Senator Graham. Shocking. And there's no silver lining. There's nothing good about it, except that in hindsight, suddenly people are like, this guy was an amazing guy, right?
Yeah. Joe, there's no doubt, man. It's hard to forever forget Sunday morning, 3 a.m. I'm dead asleep, and my phone keeps buzzing. And I look over, it's Marco Rubio calling me. I'm like, what in the world has happened? And I picked up the phone, and Marco says, Lindsey Graham's gone. And it just didn't register immediately. And he said, Tim, Lindsey is dead. It was hard to hear those words and to realize that Lindsey Graham, I've served with him for 13 years. He was one of the 4 senators I invited to my wedding. He was a close personal friend. He served our country valiantly, but he was just a dear friend to me, a part of our family, and we lost a great guy.
The one thing I retweeted it was the speech dressing down some senators on the entire Kavanaugh situation. Kavanaugh wouldn't be sitting there on the Supreme Court right now if it wasn't for that speech. I think Lindsey Graham.
100% agree. That's one of the things that we'll remember about Lindsey the most is Kavanaugh. His legacy will be foreign policy. But, Joe, let us not forget, and I think almost no one remembers already, Lindsey Graham was the chairman of the Budget Committee. And so the budget tool reconciliation that we used to fund the Working Families Tax Cut bill, to fund our national security apparatus when every single Democrat said no, Lindsey Graham was able to get 50 plus of us on the same side. That's hard to do when you're herding cats in the United States Senate. Lindsey Graham pulled a rabbit out of the hat and really saved the average American $250.
I got to let Andrew in before he explodes. Andrew, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask the senator. I'd ask Jim off, too, because we've been talking about the president, and you can like a lot of the policies of the president, and I'm not going to dissuade you of those policies, but just on the basic facts of measuring where we are today versus before. And by the way, I'm getting a lot of emails and texts from people. You know, the stock market clearly is better off, but just on the math, we have more debt. Inflation numbers worse, consumer prices worse, unemployment is worse, jobs number is worse. Technically, you could argue the GDP number is stable / maybe worse. So, but that's just empirical math. And I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying you're making
from when he left office.
Yes,
but
from when he left office.
His inflation averaged 5%.
I understand
Andrew,
it.
I think that's
unemployment.
It's from when he left office, and that's how people measure.
Okay, 4.3 to 4.4% unemployment is still so. Those are that was a total that was an exercise in sophistry. If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. Go ahead, Senator.
Yeah, Andrew, there's no doubt. You've got to take both presidencies in aggregate. The bottom line is simply this, that the average American was losing over $1,000 a month in spending power because of Joe Biden's policies. The first thing he did as president was pass a $1.9 trillion a spending package.
If we average all 4 years together of the Biden administration, I agree.
They gave cash away. And the bottom line is this: Americans were worse off under President Biden economically. Under President Trump, they're better off.
Real wages were down.
I'm not arguing on behalf of President Biden or somebody else. All I'm just suggesting is there are people listening to you, Senator.
You know what's great
it's
about
probably
this
bad
conversation?
TV for us to talk over each other, by the way. So I don't want to make your show worse because it's one of the best shows on TV, guys. But I just want to say this. Take the numbers and take a deep look at them. The average American feels better today than they did in the challenging years of the Biden administration, which basically were 4 challenging
and Senator,
years.
I think that's especially true if you have money in the stock market. All I'm suggesting is I think that those who are measuring from the end of the Biden presidency to today may take a different view, or at least would they look at the numbers differently. Chamath was going to say something with me.
No, Andrew,
I think it's incredible. Go ahead, Senator.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, Andrew, but the bottom line is simply this: that why are the numbers tough for the beginning of the Trump administration? It's because the cumulative value of 4 years of President Biden, things got worse and worse and worse. So, of course, they've gotten better, but they've gotten better because President Trump has made very hard decisions to close our southern border, to pass tax cuts so that the average American has more of their money to hold on to. Those are really important changes that could be transformational over time. And then you look at the birth of the artificial intelligence conversation. This is going to actually increase productivity, which will increase wages without actually seeing a significant drop in employment. I've sat down with some of the largest CEOs from Walmart to Amazon's retail CEO, and they tell me the same story. Employment numbers look good. They're not laying people off. Augmentation is really important, not automation. Augmentation means that people will do more work with more opportunities, more resources because of artificial intelligence. They won't lose their jobs, which would be automation. This is a good story for us to talk about as it relates to the impact of the Trump years.
What is
Jump in.
I think it's important to take a step back and realize you're making a very specific, numerically grounded comparison about what your opinion of President Trump is.
It's not my opinion.
No, I'm just saying, you can make a numerical comparison. Imagine if we were sitting here and we'd have to first declare 19 pronouns and we'd have to talk about, the DEI. Like, I'm here because I'm like a Sri Lankan immigrant that grew up on welfare. I have to tell you my whole sob story. Where we were going was not a place that was oriented around productivity. It was around theater. But hold on
I'm not disagreeing with that, but that's a different topic.
So I'm saying you have some valid points about where GDP could be or could not be. You should thank the lucky stars that that's what we're debating right now.
And that's a fair argument on that side, too.
No, but the only part I was talking about, to take when he left office, gas prices were below $3. They're back to $3.80 now.
Right.
But they averaged $3.70 through his entire presidency, and we're up from $2.80 from the previous time. So looking at a point in time.
I understand. The only
and
thing
also, unemployment is
typically the point in time is when the presidency of the last president ends and the new presidency begins. If you want in 3 years, 2.5 years from now, we can do the averages of both presidents, and then we can have a conversation.
But there's no way
but that's not how people have that conversation.
There's no way we're hitting 22.5% inflation in 4 years. We're at 3. We're above 3. Okay, I grant we were 2.8 when he left. We're 2/10 above, or 3, or even a point above.
Yeah,
maybe but we didn't average.
Pandemic. I'm not. Look, we
At
don't need to
the
have
end
this
of the
debate.
day, guys, here's what we know. If we were going to do what Andrew just suggested, we'd go back to December of 2020 and say gas prices were under $2 a gallon, and because of Joe Biden, they almost went up by 100%. So when you do just a one-spot check on the Trump administration versus the Biden administration, it looks fantastic because it was good. But when you do the exact same comparison in aggregate, take the Trump years versus the Biden years, and then take the Biden years versus the second Trump term, we're already heading in the right direction in a faster clip, which is really important. And that's why it's so important for your viewers to consume as much information as possible and come to their own decisions, but come to them based on the facts, not on our emotions.
Right, but then it becomes very hard to do the full comps because we'll talk about potentially a war in Iran and what happened in Israel in October 7th. We'll go through that. We'll do that.
Let's
we'll
talk
also
about
go back
that,
into
though.
COVID.
But let's talk about it.
Well,
that's worth talking about. October 7th, 2023, we saw the beginning of an attempt at a Jewish genocide. And frankly, Joe Biden's first text were to tell Israel to calm down. We've seen exactly the opposite from President Trump when he says he wants to make sure that Iran is never a nuclear power, would save millions of lives over time. We cannot dismiss the different styles and, frankly, the responses to crises around this world in the two presidents that we're talking about. The comparison is stark. The contrast is easy to see the difference in leadership, in content, in substance, and frankly, in results.
Yeah. See, you thought you were going to come in here and talk about the Humphrey Hawkins testimony, and you got the full Squawk treatment this morning, Senator. And Chamath is mixing it up. It's all. I think it's all good. It's all.
I think it's great.
I think so too. Do I look this way? I do. I love you.
Senator Tim Scott, thank you. Appreciate it.
God bless you, Andrew.
Nice to see you.
Joe, y'all take care.
Andrew?
Good seeing you.
You bet.
Andrew's down.